Hi folks, I'm James and I love urban sketching, as you can see from these sketches here. And when I think of urban sketching, I think of a particular look and feel, always with pen or pencil, and sometimes with light watercolor washes, but always with traditional media and always on traditional paper sketchbook. But this video is a teaser for an upcoming mini course about how Procreate can help you become a better urban sketcher, not as a replacement for traditional media, but as a kind of urban sketching teacher that's always by your side, helping you overcome the most common fears of urban sketchers. So download the files I created for this mini course at the link in the description below, and let's start with the most common fear all artists have, the fear of making mistakes. And the good news here is that you can completely ignore that fear, because Procreate allows you to use 2 fingers to undo any mark you make by simply tapping the screen once, or you can hold those fingers down to undo all the marks you've made for as far back as you want to go. And if you go too far, you can tap with 3 fingers to come back 1 step, or hold 3 fingers down to come back all the way to the present. And when it's so easy to undo things, you will experiment more, you'll sketch more, and you'll stretch your abilities more. The next common urban sketching problem that Procreate can help with is how to translate what you see in real life into a sketch on a physical page. And this fear can be broken down into 3 separate fears: the fear of composition, the fear of proportions, and the fear of perspective. And Procreate helps with these fears in at least 2 ways. With Photoshop-like layers that let you take advantage of the age-old art of underpainting, and with a perspective drawing assist feature that allows you to set your vanishing points, then literally draw in perspective. Now these 2 go hand in hand, but let me demonstrate them one at a time. There's nothing new about underpainting. It's been used by artists for thousands of years as a way of blocking out their compositions using thin layers of paint, and the reason it's been around so long is because it's much easier to begin visualizing what you see in a loose wash made with a paintbrush than with a thin and very finite line made with a pencil. The brush creates shapes and random textures that begin to suggest volume and depth, whereas the pencil leaves nothing to the imagination and either gets the shapes of the scene right the first time, a very difficult thing to do, or ends up being erased and reworked many times. For instance, here I am trying to compose my sketch on paper using a pencil. It's difficult to compose the view in profile, working from the outside in of all the objects, with only a single line. And it's likely I'll have to erase the line and go back over it many times to get the proportions and perspective right. Whereas with the Procreate underpainting approach, I can just choose one of these cool textured brushes, adjust the width and opacity, then start to kind of push and pull loose, suggestive washes to approximate the view in my mind. It's like a Rorschach test in the sense that one starts by making a kind of ink blot of the scene, then steps back, squints, and begins to recognize the scene they're drawing inside those shapes. I can even select and transform sections of these washes until they get closer to the image in my mind, in a process more akin to sculpting in clay than tracing with a pencil. And as a bonus, because I've used a highly textured brush to create the underpainting, I can begin to imagine the details I'll be drawing in the random textures and happy accidents of the brush strokes, but we'll get to that in a moment. If using a textured brush to get started isn't your style, you can just as easily use what I call the select and fill method to create the first draft of your underpainting in literal seconds, tapping the selection tool, then freehand, then color fill, then loosely outlining your initial draft with a marching ants, closing the loop, and voila, an instant black and white draft of your composition, ready to be refined by you like a sculptor using a clay knife, erasing and cajoling the shapes into a closer approximation of the scene using the many editing tools at your disposal. Remember, this is all just the underpainting step, with more steps to come. I'm not suggesting that these quick operations look good, but that they are a great way for overcoming your fear of composition and getting something down on paper so you can begin to react to it, and begin that feedback loop between your sketch, your eye, and your hand that is a part of all art. Download the original Procreate files I used in this preview of my upcoming mini course at the link in the description below. And to see the next video in this series, click on the image you see on the screen and I'll see you in the next episode.